There's a certain sound a heart makes when it breaks. It's not a loud crack like a dinner plate hitting the floor. No, it's quieter than that. It's more like the delicate chime of a porcelain teacup, the one you only use for special guests developing a hairline fracture you can't even see. You pour your warmth into it day after day until one day it just can't hold anymore, and everything spills out. My name is Grace. I'm 74 years old, and that sound, the sound of my own heart, finally giving way, it happened this past Mother's Day. It was supposed to be a lovely day, the kind of day you see in magazine ads. I'd put on my favorite lavender sweater, the soft one my friend Eleanor knitted for me. I'd brought a bundt cake, the one with the lemon glaze my granddaughter Chloe always loves. I remember the sun was warm on my back as I walked up the path to my daughter Sarah's house. The flower beds were blooming. It all looked so perfect. Sarah answered the door. She had that distracted smile, the one that means she's thinking of 10 other things. "Hi, Mom, come on in." She took the cake without really looking at it. My son-in-law David was in the living room, staring at his phone. He gave me a little wave without looking up. Grace. But then, my Chloe. She came barreling around the corner, 7 years old, all arms and legs, and missing teeth. "Grams," she yelled, wrapping herself around my middle. That hug, it was the one real thing in the whole afternoon. It almost made me believe the fantasy. We settled in the living room. The kids were fidgety. David was still on his phone. Sarah came in from the kitchen, wiping her hands on a towel. "Okay, Mom," she said, her voice a little too bright. "The kids made you something." My heart did a little flip. This was the moment. Chloe and her little brother Sam handed me a card they'd made themselves. It was construction paper with lopsided hearts and stick figure drawings of me in them. "Read it out loud, Grandma," Sam chirped. I smiled, my eyes misting a little. This was the reward. This was why we do it all. I cleared my throat, holding the card with both hands. "To the best grandma in the world," I began, my voice warm with emotion. I turned the page. It was one of those Roses Are Red poems, the words written in Sarah's neat handwriting. The kids read, scribbles around them. "Roses are red, violets are blue." I read the next line, and my voice just died in my throat. "You're a heavy burden. What else can we do? Your constant visits are a tiresome chore. We can meet. Don't want you coming by anymore." The room went absolutely silent. You could hear the refrigerator humming from the kitchen. I looked up, my eyes wide, searching Sarah's face, David's. This had to be a mistake. A terrible, terrible mistake. And then David snorted, a short, ugly little laugh. Sarah's face was a strange, tight mask. "Oh, Mom," she said, and her voice was light, almost teasing. "It's a joke. Don't you get it? A Mother's Day joke." David chimed in, his voice dripping with that condescending tone I'd come to know so well. "Yeah, Grace, lighten up, 'cause you're always here." Chloe looked from her parents to me, her little brow furrowed in confusion. "Is it funny, Mommy?" "It's hilarious, sweetie," Sarah said, not taking her eyes off me. She could see the tears starting to well in my eyes. "Look, Mom's being a good sport about it." I wasn't. I felt like I'd been physically struck. The card fell from my numb fingers onto the coffee table. A burden, a tiresome chore. The words echoed in the hollow space they'd just carved out. Inside me. I think I should go," I whispered, standing up. My legs felt like water. "Oh, don't be so dramatic, Mom," Sarah sighed as if I were a difficult child. "It was just a bit of fun." But since we're on the subject, she exchanged a quick glance with David. "We have been thinking. There's a lovely senior community over on Maple Avenue. They have activities, people your own age. You wouldn't have to be alone so much. There it was, the real card, the real message. The porcelain cup didn't just crack, it shattered. I didn't say another word. I just walked out. I walked right out of my daughter's house on Mother's Day, got into my old sedan, and drove away. I didn't look back. That night, in the silence of my own home, I didn't cry. The tears wouldn't come. I just sat in my favorite armchair, the one I'd nursed Sarah in 45 years ago, and I felt numb, empty. But then, as the moon rose high outside my window, that numbness began to burn. It started as a small ember in the pit of my stomach, and it grew. It was anger, yes, but it was more than that. It was clarity, a cold, clean, and powerful clarity. They thought I was a burden. They had no idea who they were dealing with. To understand how I got to that painful moment, you have to understand where I came from. Sarah's father, my Robert, died when she was only 5, a heart attack right there in the grocery store. There one minute, gone the next. I was 28. I had a child, a mortgage, and a broken heart, but I had no choice. You put one foot in front of the other. I worked as a secretary at the high school during the day, and 3 nights a week, I typed manuscripts for a publishing company in the city. I'd work until my eyes were blurry. The clack, clack, clack of the typewriter, the soundtrack to our lives. Every penny went to Sarah for her dance lessons, for her braces, for her college fund. The day she was accepted into nursing school, I cried for a solid hour. All that struggle, it had meant something. I remember when she met David, he was charming, ambitious. He came from a family that had things. I'll admit I was worried. I thought he might look down on our simple life. But he was always respectful to me. At first, when they got engaged, I was over the moon. I took out a second mortgage on this very house to pay for half their wedding. It was $15,000. A fortune to me. But I wanted her to have the beautiful day she dreamed of. "Mom, you shouldn't have," she'd said, hugging me. "Nonsense," I'd replied. "It's my joy." Then came the house. They found a beautiful new build in that development across town. The down payment was steep. And who did they come to? Who always had a little tucked away for a rainy day? I gave them $30,000. It was the entire nest egg I'd scraped together since Robert died. Every sacrifice, every late night, right there in a cashier's check. David shook my hand, a firm, businesslike grip. "We'll pay you back, Grace, every cent." I never saw a dime, and after a while they stopped mentioning it. It just became what Mom did. Then the grandchildren came, Chloe, and 2 years later, little Sam, my world. When Sarah went back to work, of course I stepped in. I was there every day by 7 a.m. I made breakfast, packed lunches, did the laundry, read the stories, wipe the tears. I was the steady heartbeat of that household. But slowly, so slowly, I almost didn't notice the dynamic changed. The "thank you, Mom" became, "if you could just," the requests became expectations. My opinions became old-fashioned. My help became interference. I remember one time I suggested that Sam's constant earaches might be due to an allergy. David looked at me over the top of his newspaper and said, "Grace, we've got a pediatrician for that," as if I were a stranger offering unsolicited advice. The invitations to Sunday dinners became less frequent. They started taking vacations with David's family. Well, his parents paid for the rental house, Mom. It was just easier. I was being phased out. Slowly, methodically, like an old appliance being replaced by a newer, shinier model. The final straw, the one that came before the final straw, was last Christmas. I had saved for months to buy them all nice gifts. For David, a fancy new watch he'd pointed out in a magazine. For Sarah, a beautiful silk scarf I handed her the box, my heart full of anticipation. She opened it, held it up. "Oh, Mom, it's lovely, but I don't really wear scarves." She folded it, put it back in the box, and set it aside on the table. It was like she'd handed me back my own heart. Later, I saw the same scarf, still in its box, tucked away on a shelf in the hall closet. The tag was still on. She'd never even taken it out again. That was the moment the first tiny fracture appeared in my porcelain heart. But I ignored it. I told myself I was being too sensitive, that families are complicated, that she was just busy. But after the Mother's Day card, I couldn't ignore it any longer. The cup was broken, and it was time to sweep up the pieces. The morning after Mother's Day, I woke up with that strange, clear-headed calm. I went to the little desk in my bedroom and pulled out the old leather-bound ledger my Robert had always used. I started a new page. At the top, I wrote what I gave, and I started adding it up. Not just the money. The money was easy. The wedding, the down payment, the loans for the new car, the new roof, the temporary help when David changed jobs. It came to over $89,000. $89,000. But it was the other column that took my breath away, the one I titled, What It Cost Me. I wrote down the years of my life, the evenings I spent alone while Sarah was growing up because I was working, the vacations I never took, the little treats I denied myself, the financial security I sacrificed, the worry lines, the lonely nights. I looked at those two columns side by side, and I saw the truth, not as a sad story, but as a business ledger. And it was a terrible business. I had been pouring all my assets into a company that saw me as a liability. They thought I was a poor, lonely old woman living on a small pension and Social Security. What they didn't know, what I had never told a soul, was about my Aunt Agnes. Aunt Agnes was my father's sister, a formidable woman who never married, who traveled the world, and who was shrewd with her money. She passed away 5 years ago, and she left everything to me, her entire estate. It was invested in conservative stocks and bonds, a quiet little fortune that generated an income I never touched. I was still living on my Social Security, still clipping coupons, still driving my 10-year-old car. The money from Aunt Agnes was just sitting there, growing. I didn't need their help. I didn't need their pity. I didn't need their wretched senior community on Maple Avenue. I was, in fact, a wealthy woman. And it was time to start acting like one. My first stop wasn't the bank. It was my friend Eleanor's house, the one who knitted my sweater. I sat at her kitchen table with the cat sleeping on the windowsill, and I told her everything. The card, the money, the loneliness, the inheritance. I held nothing back. She listened, her kind eyes never leaving mine. When I finished, she reached over and put her wrinkled hand on top of mine. "Grace," she said softly, "it's about damn time." Those 5 words were the most validating thing I had heard in a decade. With Eleanor as my witness and my newfound resolve, I went to the bank. I met with Mr. Evans, my financial advisor. "Mrs. Wilkins," he said, surprised, "what can I do for you?" "I need to make some changes," I said, my voice steady. "First, I want to cancel all automated transfers to my daughter Sarah Milligan's account, effective immediately." He blinked. "Of course. Are you sure?" "Quite sure," I said. "Next, I want to close the joint savings account I hold with her." "That's a rather significant move." "It's a necessary one," I replied. "And finally, I want to discuss liquidating some of my investments from the Agnes Higgins Trust." His eyes went wide. "Liquidate? But Grace, that's your security." "No, Mr. Evans," I said, a small smile touching my lips. "That was my secret. Now I intend for it to be my freedom." From there, I went to see my lawyer, a young woman named Amanda Chen, who was as sharp as a tack. I had her draw up a new will. Everything, the house, the investments, everything would now go to a local charity that provides Meals on Wheels to homebound seniors, not a cent to Sarah or David. And the grandchildren? Amanda asked, her pen poised. I thought of Chloe's hug, of Sam's little hand in mine. Set up a trust for them, I said. They can access it for education when they turn 25, but include a clause. It's only valid if they maintain a genuine, independent relationship with me. No strings pulled by their parents. My final task was the hardest. I sat down and wrote 2 letters. The first was to Sarah. My dearest Sarah, by the time you read this, you will likely have noticed the financial changes. They are permanent. The well, as they say, has run dry. For 45 years, I have loved you with every fiber of my being. I gave you everything I had not. Just my money, but my time, my energy, my life. I did it gladly because you were my world. Somewhere along the way, you began to see that love as an obligation and me as a burden. The Mother's Day card was simply the public announcement of a truth you've been showing me for years. I am not a burden, Sarah. I am your mother, and I will not be treated with such casual cruelty. I am leaving for a while. I need to remember what it feels like to be valued. Do not try to find me through guilt or manipulation. If you ever want to find me again, it will have to be through respect and love. The real kind, not the kind that comes with a price tag. Mom. The second letter was shorter, for David. David, you married my daughter, and I welcomed you into this family. I treated you as a son. You, in return, treated me as a problem to be managed. You will no longer have that problem. You will also no longer have my financial support. You are a smart man. I'm sure you will manage. Grace, I didn't send them. I left them on my kitchen table, propped up against the sugar bowl. Then I went upstairs and packed a single large suitcase. I didn't pack for the grandmother they thought I was. I packed for the woman I was about to become. I called a travel agent. I'd like to book a trip, I said. Where to, ma'am? Italy. I said, the word feeling foreign and wonderful on my tongue. I'd like to see the Tuscan. Sunday. I booked a first-class ticket. I rented a small villa for 3 months. Why 3 months? Because I could. The night before I left, I sat on my porch swing, the one Robert had hung for me so many years ago. The night air was soft. I felt a pang, a deep resonant sadness for what was lost. But beneath that sadness was something else, something solid and strong. It was me, the real me. The one who had survived widowhood and raised a child alone and built a quiet, secret life of strength and independence. I hadn't disappeared. I'd just been buried under a mountain of other people's expectations. The next morning, I got into a taxi. I didn't look back at the house. As we drove to the airport, I watched my town, my whole life, slide by the window. It looked smaller somehow. I settled into my seat on the plane, the wide, comfortable seat I'd never experienced before. The flight attendant offered me a glass of champagne. I took it. As the plane lifted off the ground, pushing me back into my seat, I felt a corresponding lift in my spirit. The weight was gone. The burden they spoke of, it wasn't me. It was the weight of their ingratitude, their disrespect. And I had left it all behind, right there on my kitchen table, next to 2 unread letters. I was flying towards the Sunday I was 74 years old, and my life, my real life, was just beginning. There's a certain sound a heart makes when it begins to mend. It's the sound of a new passport. Stamp. It's the sound of a toast among new friends in a piazza in Florence. It's the sound of your own laughter, echoing in a place where you are not a burden, but a blessing to yourself. So before you go, remember this. The bond we share, the love we give and receive, is a kind of heaven on earth, but it doesn't happen by accident. We must teach our children from the very beginning what it means to nurture, to respect, and to truly care for one another. Because the way we love becomes the world they inherit. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to subscribe, leave a comment, and share your thoughts below. Your words matter. Your story might just help someone else find their way back to love.